Boom! Hey, how you doing? I'm Thundercloud here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. Let's have some fun and linguistic games. It's Chillin Tuesday, and tonight would be the 28th of May 2024. And you know my mum calls me James. Hey, here I am in front of the Australian Poetry Library and Archive, which has substantially grown over the last week thanks to the Rotary Book Fair in Armidale and also donations from beautiful people like yourself. Yes, that's right. Thank you very much for sending in your books, all those people who have sent in their books to this beautiful Australian Poetry Library and Archive that I've been collecting over the last 4 years at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame here in Guyra. Well, tonight on Chillin Tuesday, I'm going to be back onto Henry Lawson because we're going to work on 1899, some of his manuscript, unpublished works, and his 1901 poetry. So that would be in the first year of Federation in Australia. Yeah, so we're going from a colonial poet to a Federation poet. As he was, he spanned those two generations. Right, so I need the book. So this is the Henry Lawson section here, the banjo, the colonial, all the way down there to the Australian, the kids and the First Nations poetry here. Here we go. Henry Lawson, A Fantasy of Man. And yeah, I guess we'll see you back in there. Or would you like to see the drawings of Henry Lawson? Of course you would. Come on, come and have a look at this here in the Poetry Hall of Fame. All right, well, here I am in front of Henry Lawson. Yeah, that was when he was a young fella. And I guess up until, 1901, he was a young fella. Look, I might as well begin the night. And do you know what the weather's going to be tonight in Guyra? Yes, it's going to be 2 overnight and a bottom of -2. Well, feels like -2. 2 feels like -2. Tomorrow it's going to be a beautiful day of 16 degrees on the 29th of May in Guyra. So that's just fabulous for a May day. Oh, look, here we go. So I've opened up to the first page here. We've got Jack Cornstalk. I met Jack Cornstalk in London today. He saw me and cooeyed from over the way. Oh, the solemn-faced Londoner stare with surprise at his hair and his height as compared with his size. For his trousers were short and his collar was low, and there's not room to cooey in London, I know. But I said to him, Jack, as he gripped my hand fast, oh, I hear that our country's a nation at last. I hear they have launched the new ship of the state, and with men at the wheel who are steering it straight. I hear 'twas the vote of your bushmates and you. And, oh, tell me, Jack Cornstalk, if this can be true. I hear that the bitter black strike times are o'er, and the Grabbit and Co. shall crush labour no more. That Australians are first where Australia was last, and the day of the foreign adventurers past. That all things are coming we fought for so long. And oh, tell me, Jack Cornstalk, if I have heard wrong. For a moment he dropped the old grin that he wore. He'd a light in his eyes that was not there before. And he reached for my hand, which I gave nothing loth, and replied in 2 words, and those words were my oath. They are standing up grand, Toby, Barton and C, and Australia's all right. You can take it from me. And that was first published in When I Was King, and that was the first thing he wrote in, well, not the first thing, but it's one of the first poems he wrote in 1901. All right, well, I'm going to retire back into the Seahorse Medicine Cafe where it's a lot warmer, so I'll see you in there. Whoa, how's that? Just quantum jump from that room to this room. Pretty clever what you can do with video, eh? All right, well, back on to Henry Lawson. But before we do, let's give you the full weather report for the night here in Gyra. Okay, it's currently 11.8 degrees. It feels like 8.4. Maximum overnight will be 2. Well, the minimum overnight will be 2. The maximum will be 16. And mostly clear. There will be no rain. It's currently 13 kilometre per hour winds, 67% humidity with 13 kilometre per hour gusts. In other words, it's very quite still out there. Sunrise will be at 6:40 a.m. and sunset at 5:03 p.m. We've got a waning gibbous moon in the last quarter on the 31st of May is the next moon phase. And the wind tomorrow will get up to, a whole 11, 12, 13, 15 kilometres an hour at about 11 o'clock. The temperatures will get, as I said, to get up to 16, will feel like 11, but if you get in the sun, it feels a lot warmer than that. And that's the weather here from Gyra. If you want to know the weather in where you are, look up your own app. Fair enough, eh? All right. 1899. These particular poems were not published. Were not published. They were manuscript found in manuscripts. The first one, the Flag of Our Destinies. With our boundaries swung to the circling seas and a nation named to the world, and the six-starred flag of our destinies on every port unfurled, God grant from greed or the dust of sleep or the right by a lie maintained, from all save our blood, if we must, we'll keep the silver and blue unstained. We yield no praise and we speak no blame for our history's weeds and flowers, but the work of 100 years we claim as our Father's work and ours. Through peace to prosper or war to save, wherever the future runs, may God make noble and strong and brave the hearts of our Father's sons. The Flag of Our Destinies by Henry Lawson. The next one is The Man Ahead by Henry Lawson. He travels and studies the lay of the land and the hearts of the people on hill and flat, and hears at times, but he can't make out what the crawlers behind him are yelping at. A smile for his face when he turns a space to see what the country behind him is like, and a stab in the back when he leaves his track to strike a blow where they dare not strike. They see not right and they see not left. They trust his instinct to show the track, and lured with hatred of envious spite, their eyes are fixed on the small of his back. They would steal his name. They would steal his fame. They would steal his work. They would steal his bread. Oh, they yelp in despair to the silent crowd to help him strangle the man ahead. Oh, man ahead, if you slip in a hole that others and others may step aside, the crawlers will go for you body and soul, and you'll need your strength and you'll need your hide, but you have them close when they think you're sick, and you'll have them tight when they think you're dead. Choke the cowards and choke them quick, for the sake of the man to be next ahead. Yeah, that's quite an interesting poem. It's a bit about tall poppy syndrome, really. You know, the person out of front forging ahead is sort of being pulled back by the drifters in, as he calls them here, the crawlers. Interesting. So I wonder if Australia has changed when you consider that. "'Twas a Land Set Apart by Henry Lawson. 'Twas a land set apart for a nation, predestined for times like these, set apart in the great creation by its place in the midst of the seas. 'Tis a land where national honour might rise with a stainless name, and the people be wise and prosper, and freedom forget her shame. And the wealth of the people only be told by the wealth of the state in the dawn of the world's enlightenment. To the old lands come too late. 'Twas a land set apart by Henry Lawson. Okay, and that's the 3 of his poems that were unpublished and that were found in manuscripts after he went away. So now I'll get back onto the 1901 poetry. Okay, 1901. As I said earlier, it was the first year of Federation, but it was also the year that Miles Franklin published My Brilliant Career. And Henry Lawson was asked to write the preface. And here it is, Preface to My Brilliant Career. A few months before I left Australia, I got a letter from the bush signed Miles Franklin, saying that the writer had written a novel, but knew nothing of editors and publishers, and asking me to read and advise. Something about the letter, which was written in a strong, original hand, attracted me. So I sent for the MS, and one dull afternoon I started to read it, MS being the manuscript. I hadn't read 3 pages when I saw what you will no doubt see at once, that the story had been written by a girl. And as I went on, I saw that the work was Australian, born of the bush. I don't know about the girlishly emotional parts of the book. I leave that to girl readers to judge, but the description of bush life and scenery came startlingly, painfully real to me. And I know that, as far as they are concerned, the book is true to Australia, the truest I ever read. I wrote to Miles Franklin, and she confessed that she was a girl. I saw her before leaving Sydney. She's just a little bush girl, barely 21 yet, and has scarcely ever been out of the bush in her life. She's lived her book, and I feel proud of it, for the sake of the country I came from, where people toil and bake and suffer and are kind, where every second sunburnt bushman is a sympathetic humorist, with the sadness of the bush deep in his eyes and a brave grin for the worst of times, and where every third bushman is a poet with a big heart that keeps his pockets empty. My Brilliant Career. That's where it was published. It was the preface, of course. All right, the next one I've got for you is The Bulletin Hotel by Henry Lawson. This was first published in When I Was King. I was drifting in the drizzle past the Cecil in the Strand, which I'm told is very tony and its front's very grand. And I somehow fell a thinking of a pub I know so well, of a place in Australia called the Bulletin Hotel. Just a little 6-roomed shanty built of corrugated tin, and all round a blazing desert land of camels, thirst and sin. And the landlord is the spider, Western diggers know him well, Charlie Webb, there you have it, of the Bulletin Hotel. 'Tis a big soft-hearted spider in a land where life is grim, and a web of great good nature that brings worn-out flies to him. 'Tis the cub of many lost souls in a wide Westralian hell, and the stage of many Mitchells is the Bulletin Hotel. "What's a drink or two?" says Charlie, "and you can't refuse a feed. But there's many a drink unpaid for, many sticks of borrowed weed, and the poor old spineless bummer and the broken-hearted swell know that they are sure of tucker at the Bulletin Hotel. There's the liquor and the licence and the carriage and the rent, and the sea or grave twixt Charlie and the fivers he has lent. And I'm forced to think in sorrow, for I know the country well, know that they are sure of tucker at the Bulletin Hotel. There's the liquor and the licence and the carriage and the rent, and the sea or grave twixt Charlie and the fivers he has lent. And I'm forced to think in sorrow, for I know the country well, that the end will be the bailiff of the Bulletin Hotel. But he'll pack up in a hurry, and he'll seek a cooler clime if I make a rise in England, and I get out there in time. For a mate of mine is Charlie, and I stayed there for a spell, and I owe more than a jingle to the Bulletin Hotel. But there's lots of graft between us, there are many miles of sea, so if you should drop on Charlie, just shake hands with him from me. Say, I think the bush less lonely than the great town where I dwell, and grander than the Cecil is the Bulletin Hotel. The Things We Dare Not Tell by Henry Lawson. The fields are fair in autumn yet, and the sun's still shining there. But we bow our heads and we brood and fret because of the masks we wear. Or we nod and smile the social while, and we say we're doing well. But we break our hearts, we break our hearts for the things we must not tell. There's the old love wronged ere the new was won. There's the light of long ago. There's the cruel lie that we suffer for, and the public must not know. So we go through life with a ghastly mask, and we're doing fairly well while they break our hearts, so they kill our hearts, do the things we must not tell. We see but pride in a selfish breast while a heart is breaking there. Oh, the world would be a kindly world if all men's hearts lay bare. We live and share the living lie. We are doing very well, while they eat our hearts as the years go by, do the things we dare not tell. We bow us down to a dusty shrine or a temple in the east, or we stand and drink to the world-old creed with the coffins at the feast. We fight it down and we live it down, or we bear it bravely well. But the best men die of a broken heart for the things they cannot tell. Yeah, well, that's secrets, isn't it? You know, you want to keep secrets for what you did and not take responsibility for your life. Well, then you might have shame and guilt and all of that kind of stuff. But if you're honest, it wouldn't happen. As far as your rifle's cover by Henry Lawson. Do you think, you slaves of 1,000 years to poverty, wealth and pride, you can crush the spirit that has been free in a land that's new and wide? When you've scattered the last of the farmer bands and the war for a while is over, you will hold the land, you'll hold the land that your rifles cover. Till your gold has levelled each mountain range where a wounded man can hide, till your gold has lighted the moonless night on the plains where the rebels ride, till the future is proved and the past is bribed from the son of the land's dead lover, You may hold the land, you may hold the land, just as far as your rifles cover. As far as your rifles, and that was first published in When I Was King. The next one's called GS, or The Fourth Cook. He has notions of Australia from the tales that he's been told. Land of leggings and revolvers, land of savages and gold. So he begs old shirts and someone patches up his worn-out duds. He's shipped as general servant, scrubbing pots and peeling spuds in the steamer's grimy alley, hating man and peeling spuds. There is little time to comfort, there is little time to cry. He will come back with a fortune, we'll be happy by and by. Scarcely time to kiss his sweetheart, barely time to change his duds. Ere they want him in the galley and they set him peeling spuds, with a butcher's knife a bucket and say 1/2 a ton of spuds. And he peels 'em hard to Plymouth, peels 'em fast to drown his grief, peels 'em while his stomach sickens on the road to Tenerife, peels 'em while the donkey rattles, peels 'em while the engine thuds. By the time they touch at Cape Town, he's done at peeling spuds, and he finds some time for dreaming as he gets on with the spuds. In the steamer's slashy alley where the souls of men are dead, and the adjectives are crimson if the substances are red. He's perhaps a college black sheep and maybe of ancient blood. Ah, his devil grips him sometimes as he reaches for a spud, and he jerks his head and sadly gouges dry rot from a spud. And his brave heart hopes and sickens as the weary days go round. There is lots of time for blue lights ere they reach King George's Sound, but he gets his best suit ready while 2 white shirts and 3 bone studs. He will face the new world bravely when he's finished with the spuds, and next week perhaps he'll gladly take a job at peeling spuds. There were heroes in Australia, went exploring long ago. There are heroes in Australia and the world shall never know. And the men we use for heroes in the land of drought and floods often win their way to Sydney, scrubbing pots and peeling spuds. Plucky beggars, poor brave devils, gouging dry rot from their spuds. And that was first published in When I Was King. The next one I've got for you is it's a little introduction to Henry Lawson's longer short story called His Brother's Keeper. By his path through the parched desolation, hot rides and the terrible tramps, by the hunger, the thirst, the privation of his work in the furthermost camps, by his worth in the light that shall search men and prove and justify each, I place him at front of all churchmen who feel not, who know not, but preach. That was published in The Christ of the Never. The next one is called Bush Girl, the Bush Girl, from The Children of the Bush, or from When I Was King. So, you rode from the range where your brothers select, through the ghostly grey bush in the dawn. You rode slowly at first, lest her heart should suspect that you were so glad to be gone. You had scarcely the courage to glance back at her by the homestead receding from view, and you breathed with relief as you rounded the spur for the world was a wide world to you. Grey eyes that grow sadder than sunset or rain, fond heart that is ever more true, firm faith that grows firmer for watching in vain, she'll wait by the slip rails for you. Ah, the world is a new and a wide one to you, but the world to your sweetheart is shut, for a change never comes to the lonely bush homes of the stockyard, the scrub and the hut. And the only relief from its dullness she feels when the ridges grow softened and dim, and away in the dusk to the slip rails she steals to dream of past hours with him. Do you think where, in place of bare fences, dry creeks, clear streams and green hedges are seen, where the girls have the lily and rose in their cheeks, and the grass in the midsummer is green? Do you think now or then in the whirl of the town life while London is new, of the hut in the bush and the freckle-faced girl who waits by the slip rails for you? Grey eyes that are sadder than sunset or rain, bruised heart that is ever more true, fond faith that is firmer for trusting in vain, she waits by the slip rails for you. That's really sad. What a sad, sad poem that is. The next one I've got is called The Never Never Country by Henry Lawson. By homestead, hut and shearing shed, by railroad, coach and track, by lonely graves of our brave dead, up country and out back, to where 'neath glorious clustered stars the dreamy plains expand, my home lies wide 1,000 miles in the Never Never Land. It lies beyond the farming belt, wide wastes of scrub and plain, a blazing desert in the drought, a lake land after rain. To the sky line sweeps the waving grass, or whirls the scorching sand, a phantom land, a mystic land, the Never Never Land, where lone Mount Desolation lies, mounts dreadful and despair. 'Tis lost beneath the rainless skies in hopeless deserts there. It spreads northwest by no man's land, where clouds are seldom seen, to where the cattle stations lie 300 miles between. The drovers of the great stock routes the strange Gulf country know, where, travelling from the southern droughts, the big lean bullocks go, and camped by night where plains lie wide, like some old ocean's bed, the watchmen in the starlight ride round 1,500 head. And west of named and numbered days, the shearers walk and ride, Jack Cornstalk and the ne'er-do-well, and the greybeard side by side. They veil their eyes from moon and stars and slumber on the sand. Sad memories sleep as years go round in Never Never Land. By lonely huts northwest of Burke, through years of flood and drought, the best of English black sheep work their own salvation out. Wild, fresh-faced boys grown gaunt and brown, stiff-lipped and haggard-eyed. They live the dead past grimly down, where boundary riders ride. The college wreck who sank beneath, then rose above his shame, tramps west in mateship with the man who cannot write his name. 'Tis there where on the barren track no last half crusts begrudged, where saint and sinner side by side judge not and are not judged. O rebels to society, the outcasts of the West, O hopeless eyes that smile for me, and broken hearts that jest, the pluck to face 1,000 miles, the grit to see it through, the communism perfected, and I am proud of you. The Arab to true desert sand, the Finn to fields of snow, the flax stick turns to Maori land, where the seasons come and go. And this old fact comes home to me, and will not let me rest. However barren it may be, your own land is the best. And lest at ease I should forget, true mateship after all, my water bag and billy yet are hanging on the wall. And if my fate should show the sign, I'd tramp sunsets grand with gaunt and stern-eyed mates of mine in the Never Never Land. That's Henry Lawson, The Never Never Land, from When I Was King. The Shearers by Henry Lawson. No church bell rings them from the track, no pulpit lights their blindness. 'Tis hardship, drought and homelessness that teach those bushmen kindness. The mateship born of barren lands, the toil of thirst and danger, the campfire for the stranger set, the first place to the stranger. They do the best they can today, take no thought of the morrow. Their way is not the old world way, they live to lend and borrow. When shearing's done and checks gone wrong, they call it time to slither. They saddle up and say, so long, and ride the Lord knows whither. And though he may be brown or black or wrong man there or right man, the mate that's honest to his mates, they call that man a white man. The tramp in mateship, side by side, the Protestant and Roman, they call no biped lord or sir, and touch their hats to no man. They carry in their swags, perhaps, a portrait and a letter, and maybe deep down in their hearts they hope of something better, where lonely miles are long to ride and all days seem recurrent. There's lots of time to think of men these they might have been, but weren't. They turn their faces to the west and leave the world behind them. Their drought-dried graves are seldom green, where even mates can find them. They know too little of the world to rise to wealth or greatness. But in this book of mine I pay my tribute to their straightness. The Shearers by Henry Lawson. Here's a little quatrain. Send round the hat. Now this is the creed from the book of the bush, should be simple and plain to a dunce. If a man's in a hole, you must pass round the hat, were he jailbird or gentleman once. So there you go, send round the hat. If someone is in trouble, send round the hat and help him out. Right, the next one I've got for you. That Pretty Girl in the Army. It's an 8-liner. Now I often sit at Watties when the night is very near, with a head that's full of jingles and the fumes of bottled beer, for I always have a fancy if I am over there when the army prays for Watty, I'm included in the prayer. It would take a lot of praying, lots of thumping on the drum to prepare our sinful, straying, erring souls for kingdom come. But I love my fellow sinners, and I hope upon the whole that the army gets a hearing when it prays for Watty's soul. And that was first published in When the World Was Wide. All right, we're coming up to the end here now. We've only got a couple more to go. What's coming up here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame? Well, big announcement. Ash Grunwald is coming here on the 23rd of June. So check out the link in the description for tickets. Tickets are $47 or $52 and they're only available online, and they are selling fast as well. So if you don't get them now, you might miss out on the concert of the year here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame in Guyra. Yes, it's true. Get them now. Ash Grunwald, 23rd of June. Don't miss out, or you'll be just hearing about it from your friends. All right. Heed Not is the next one. Heed not the cocksure tourist, seeing with the English eyes, stroked at the banquet table, still with the old stock lies, pet of a social circle, guest in a garden fair, free of the first-class carriage, he learns no Australia there. Heed not the southern humbugs by the first saloons who come. From his work in the wide hot scrublands, the Australian goes not home. Give them the toadies' knighthood, fit for the souls they've got. Fear not to shame Australia, for Australia knows them not. Heed not the Sydney dailies, naught for the land they do. Heed not the Melbourne street crowd, for they know no more than you. Pent in the coastal cities, still in the old world track, they know naught of Australia, of the heart of the great outback. But wait for the voice that gathers strength by the western creeks. Heed ye the outback shearers, list when the great bush speaks. Heed ye the black sheep working for his own salvation free. And oh, heed ye the sons of the exiles when they speak of the things to be. That's Heed Not by Henry Lawson, first published in When I Was King. What else have we got happening here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame? Well, every Wednesday night, we've got Wednesday Words open mic poetry and music night. So if you're a poet or a musician, or you've got something to say, or a comedian or whatever, come here Wednesday night. We open the doors from 5:30 for meals here in the Seahorse Medicine Cafe, and then 6:30 we kick off the night with our open mic. And so check it out. Come on down. Don't miss out. And it's every Wednesday here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame in Guyra. Okay. What else have we got? Coming up in August, we've got a heat of the Australian Poetry Slam. So if you're a slam poet and you want a chance to get into the final of the New South Wales final of the Australian Poetry Slam, then get here to Guyra for the heat of the Australian Poetry Slam in August. Yeah, check it out in the link below. The other thing we've got is every Saturday morning here in the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, we have our little Guyra Saturday morning market. Now, if you're a stall holder and you would like to have a stall, give me a call and look it up on the website www.australianpoetryhalloffame.com.au and go to the contact page and you can find out how to contact me there, or just Google it. Also, as well as that, we've got merchandise available from meanwhileinaustralia.com and also on the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame website. Yes, that's right. We have an Australian Poetry Hall of Fame website, and you can get all the up-to-date information. You can get information about poetry. You can buy our merchandise on the shop, which supports the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame and makes sure that I can continue doing this. And you can also donate if you'd like to donate to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame and what I'm doing here, because look, I'm not getting paid for any of this. I'm just doing it out of the goodness of me, myself. Because I love poetry and I love sharing Australian poetry. It's a passion of mine. So if you'd like to support me, check out the links in the description. You can donate via PayPal, and you can even send cryptocurrencies if you want. Yeah, Bitcoins or XRP, or I take about 28 different cryptocurrencies. So yeah, check out the link below in the description as well. That's right. Also happening at the moment, we've got the Australian Poetry Film Festival and Film Competition. You can check that out on filmfreeway.com/Australian Poetry Film Contest. And we've got 3 categories, one for Best Australian Poetry Film, one for Best Australian Bush Poetry Film, and one for Best Student Poetry Film. Check out the Australian Poetry Film Festival there, link in the description below. All right, the last one I've got of Henry Lawson. Okay, the last 2 that I've got of Henry Lawson for the night for Chillin Tuesday on this 28th of May 2024. This is called Sacred to the Memory of Unknown, who was found dead near this tree during the great drought of 96. Don't cut down this tree, for a white man lies beneath it. That's the plaque that was there. Oh, the wild black swans fly westward still, while the sun goes down in glory, and away over lonely plain and hill still runs the same old story. The she-oaks sigh it all day long. It is safe in the big scrub's keeping. 'Tis the butcher birds and the bellbird's song in the gum where unknown lies sleeping. It is heard in the chat of the soldier birds, oh, the grave where unknown lies sleeping. Ah, the bushman knew not his name or land, or the shame that had sent him here. But the bushman knew by the dead man's hand that his past life lay not near. The law of the land might have watched for him, or a sweetheart, wife, or mother. But they bared their heads and their eyes were dim, for he might have been a brother. Ah, the death he died brought him near to them, for he might have been a brother. Oh, the wild black swans to the westward fade, and the sunset burns to ashes, and 3 times bright on an eastern range the light of a big star flashes, like a signal sent to a distant strand where a dead man's love sits weeping. And the night comes grand to the great lone land over the grave where the unknown lies sleeping. And the big white stars in their clusters blaze, oh, the bush where unknown lies sleeping. Unknown by Henry Lawson, published first in When I Was King. The last one I've got for you tonight is The Men Who Made Australia, written on the occasion of the royal visit to Australia in 1901. There'll be royal times in Sydney for the cuff and collar push. There'll be lots of dreary drivel and claptrap from the men who own Australia but who never knew the bush, and who could not point their runs out on the map. Oh, the daily press will grovel as it never did before. There'll be many flags of welcome in the air, and the civil service poet, he shall write odes by the score. But the men who made the land will not be there. You shall meet the awful lady of the latest birthday night. She's trying to be English, don't you know? You shall hear the empty mouthing of the champion blatherskite. You shall hear the boss of local drapers blow. There'll be margers from the counter, tailors' dummies from the fleet. And to represent Australia here today, there's the toady with his card case and his cab in Downing Street. But the men who made Australia, where are they? Call across the blazing sand wastes of the Never Never Land, there are some who will not answer yet a while. Some whose bones rot in the mulga or lie bleaching on the sand, died of thirst to win the land another mile. Thrown from horses, ripped by cattle, lost on deserts and the weak, mad through loneliness or drink, no matter which, drowned in floods or dead by fever by the sluggish, slimy creek. These are men who died to make the wool kings rich. Call across the scrubby ridges where they clear the barren soil, and the gaunt bush women share the work of men. Toil and loneliness forever, hardship, loneliness and toil, where the brave drought-ruined farmer starts again. Call across the boundless sheep runs of a country cursed for sheep. Call across the awful scrublands west of Burke. But they have no time to listen, they have scarcely time to sleep, for the men who conquer deserts have to work. Dragged behind the crawling sheep flock on the hot and dusty plain, they must make a check to feed the wife and kids, riding night watch round the cattle in the pelting, freezing rain, while world weariness is pressing down the lids. And away on far-out stations, seldom touched by heaven's breath, in a loneliness that smothers love and hate, where they never take white women, there they live the living death, with a half-caste or a black gin for a mate. They must toil to save the gaunt stock in the blazing months of drought, when the stinging, blinding blight is in men's eyes. On the wretched burnt selections on the big runs further out, where the sandstorm rises lurid to the skies. Not to profit when the grass is waving waist high after rain, and the mighty clip of wool comes rolling in, for the wool king goes to Paris with his family again, and the gold that souls are sacrificed to win. There are carriages in waiting for the swells from oversea, there are banquets in the latest London style, while the men who made Australia live on damper, junk and tea. But the quiet voices whisper, wait a while, for the sons of all Australia, they were born to conquer fate. And where charity and friendship are sincere, where a sinner is a brother and a stranger is a mate, there the future of a nation's written clear. Aye, the cities claim the triumphs of the land they do not know, but all empty is the day they celebrate for the men who made Australia federated long ago, and the men to rule Australia, they can wait. Though the bed may be rough, bunk or gum leaves in the sand, and the roof for half the year may be the sky, there are men amongst the bushmen who were born to save the land, and they'll take their places sternly by and by. There's a whisper on the desert through the sunset, breathe hath died. In the scrubs, though not a breath to stir a bough, there's a murmur not of waters down the Lachlan River side. 'Tis the spirit of Australia waking now. There's the weird hymn of the drought night on the western watershed, where the beds of unlocked rivers crack and parch. 'Tis the dead that we have buried and our great unburied dead, who are calling now on living men to march. Round the campfire of the fences by the furthest panel west, in the men's hut by the muddy billabong, on the great northwestern stock routes where the drovers never rest, they are sorting out the right things from the wrong. In the shearer's hut, the sluggish lamp shows a haggard, stern-faced man, preaching war against the wool king to his mates. And wherever go the billy, water bag and frying pan, they are drafting future histories of states. Yeah, okay, so that's The Men Who Made Australia by Henry Lawson. So, yeah, all those hardworking people out there, written on the occasion of the royal visit to say, hey, what have you done? All right, well, that's it. That's the end of Chillin' Tuesday here on the 28th of May 2024, and that's my Henry Lawson stuff for 1899 and 1901. We will see you tomorrow night here for Wednesday Words from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. I'm Thundercloud, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next week from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. Or actually, not really. We'll see you the week after. We'll see you in 2 weeks, because I'll be down in Armidale next Tuesday for the Armidale Poetry Night at the Bowling Club. So if you're in Armidale on a Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, 7 o'clock, the Armidale Poets meet. Check it out. Come along. Anyone's able and allowed to come along, listen, or come bring a bit of poetry to read if you'd like to share it with us. We're only a small group. We sit there in the corner, but it's heaps of fun, and we get to hear what other people are interested in and what other interesting poetry people have found. All right, I'm Thundercloud. Boom! Rumble, rumble, rumble. See you later.